Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so let's start things off even-handedly and see how long that lasts. I'm going to ask everyone on the panel now to come up with me one good and one bad from the budget. And I'm going to send it over, the question over to the audience as well to see what some of the people here think. So, well, let's start off. Poppy, let's start off. Oh, would you like to use mine?
So starting with the good side, I think everyone was very worried that business asset disposal relief or kind of old money and entrepreneurs relief would get changed, reduced a lot more, or be completely stopped. So a lot of people we work with were delighted that there weren't any changes to that. So I suppose that was good, although it was an absence of something. The bad was the corporation tax rate going up to the 25%. Although it was expected, I think people were optimistic that maybe that might be changed. Appreciate we need to raise more taxes, but not sure the corporation tax was the right way to do it, especially because that for a smaller company will probably make the difference of them being able to employ maybe 1 or 2 extra people.
I think I've had my innings. But I thought the good one was childcare. Even though the mechanism they've used, which is hours of free childcare, because it doesn't mean that the childcare actually exists, because somebody's got to provide it. But the principle of focusing on childcare as a big supply side factor struck me as being a good initiative.
It's annoying when somebody just says what you were going to say. So, and so I'll expand on that and say I agree. The childcare is one of the most the biggest things that came out of it. Plus, also the other things that went with it as well, such as the support for organisations who are facing pressures. Upward pressures by minimum wage or national living wage, should I say, and forcing pressures from that side, and also the wraparound cover provided by the schools as well. And that the negative, if you like, I was going to mention was the fact that there was not quite as much detail on that for how the schools are going to be assisted in providing that.
Thanks. Jeannie. I'm going to preface this by saying I'm going to sound like I'm really negative about tax, and generally I think tax is a good thing. But the freezing of the personal allowance and the tax bans that Vince mentioned earlier, I think is unhelpful. I think it's important that tax systems protect the lowest paid, and freezing the personal allowance until 2028 means that next year alone, I think 1.7 million more people will become taxpayers for the first time, and they're people on the lowest incomes. Also, the freezing of the starting level for higher rate tax will stay at 50,000 or just above 50,000. So another 1 million people will start paying 40% tax for the first time. And that brings with it some complications around things like claiming child benefit, which you have to start to repay. Again, a big simplification of the tax rules around saving for your retirement. So as part of the Chancellor's effort to get more over 50s back to work, he completely abolished the lifetime allowance, which is the limit to which you could save in your pension without paying big tax penalties. So that used to be 1 million, that limit's now been abolished. The idea is to get doctors to stop retiring early because they were facing tax charges. It's actually benefited some already fairly wealthy people. A guy I was working with recently was about to have to pay £150,000 in tax. We decided to wait a little bit to see what happened in the budget, and now he doesn't have to pay anything. So he's delighted, but he's not going to go back to work because of it. So we sort of welcome simplification in that any tax regime shouldn't leave you exposed to tax because you've done the right thing earlier on.
Okay, so some interesting views there. Let's just go straight out to the floor, and I'm going to ask you a question, and if you can answer it by raising your hand and not looking at anyone else first, I'll be interested to know how many people here, I've got a feeling I know what the answer is going to be, how many people here think that raising corporation tax to 25% is the right thing for the Chancellor to do? If you do, please raise your hand. There's a few. Vince Cable has made the point earlier, I should point out, obviously. Does anyone want to say why? Poppy wants to give a reason why. Go for it, Poppy.
The only thing I'd say is that corporation tax makes up quite a small proportion of the tax that the government takes. So even increasing it quite a lot will have a big impact on small businesses, but actually doesn't increase the tax takings that much.
Right. Oh, so that's against. That's an argument against. Okay. Vince, we're going to have to ask yourself. You've made. I mean, this is not your budget, but obviously, on behalf of Mr. Hunt, or why is it the right thing to do? I mean, explain the sort of the thinking behind it, if you mind, from the government view.
I was in the government with George Osborne, who was obsessed with trying to get the corporation tax rate down. It actually made very little difference to business behavior, very little difference. So it doesn't seem to me it does any harm to have a corporation tax rate that's round about the OECD average. It's actually a bit below. And you give businesses more targeted incentive, like the super deduction, investment allowances, and actually you give a direct incentive to companies to invest. That would be my priority.
Does anyone here, I mean, the tax rate is going up. Is anyone here thinking now I'm going to basically start investing more? Because obviously it's a tax on profits. That's a point. Is anyone thinking of investing more? Again, having heard that the tax rate is going up, is anyone here, could I simply guess for a show of hands, anyone here thinking now I'm going to invest more and basically lower my exposure to corporation tax? Again, a quick round of hands. So some people are thinking of it, not a huge room. Okay. Let's roll this one. Members of the panel, what has been the reaction from your colleagues or from the people around you in your business to the budget? Is it positive, negative? Jeannie, if you could just start us off on that one. But what's been the review from EQ investors and some of your surrounding network?
So I think from a personal finance and financial planning point of view, it's a largely benign budget. I think from a sustainability perspective, a lot more could have been done. We're sort of comparing the situation here. Vince mentioned, I think it's something like £325 million worth of investment. In the US, the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed in August included $370 billion of incentives, grants, tax credits for green technology. So what's happening here just simply isn't on the scale that we need to create the transition to a low carbon economy. And as well as that, we've already touched on the number of jobs that could be created by targeting that transition. It's something in the region of 1.7 million extra jobs that's estimated we could create in this country if we seriously invest in decarbonising our economy.
And obviously, I mean, just from on the decarbonising point of view, one of the announcements we've made, and I'm surprised it hasn't maybe gained a bit more conversation, Mr. Hunt has said that nuclear is now considered to be renewable.
Yes, he's changed the green taxonomy to include nuclear, which is currently the case in the EU in circumstances. And by doing that, it suddenly changes the dynamic. I mean, whether or not that's the right thing depends on your own views on nuclear power. The type of nuclear power that he's specifically talking about in the budget, these small modular nuclear power plants, which eventually will be in every town and home. I'm not quite sure of the detail, but it seems to me a technology that's still some way in the future and needs a huge amount of development when we've got wind, tide, solar panels, solar power out there waiting to happen and can be arranged far more quickly than the nuclear technology that he's talking about.
I suppose I really need to ask Vince Cable, especially because he'll be going soon, about nuclear power as sustainable or renewable energy. I'm imagining this probably didn't go down too well with certain Liberal Democrat friends of yours.
Well, I don't agree with them, actually. I think having a wide portfolio, including nuclear, makes a great deal of sense. Actually, I think the worst investment decision in modern times was the Treasury turning down the tidal lagoons in South Wales. That was the way that the Treasury makes investment decisions, that any benefits over 30 years aren't counted. So if you have these very, very long maturing energy projects, they don't happen. So I wouldn't criticize the nuclear. I think, the more variety, the better, providing it's viable. But, we're missing a lot of other good opportunities in the renewable space.
Nigel, if you could, I'll throw you back to the question. What has been your reaction to the budget? And from the people in your business?
So, from a financial perspective, I think hopefully people would agree with me in that this is more of a tinkering, if you like, and there's not been huge radical change. However, the biggest area is, and made people sit up and think, is in quantum and AI, and basically sending out the message that is very much future focused on that area of growth. And again, the opportunities and areas that opens up and where it sets us in the global marketplace is quite encouraging.
Tell us a bit more about that. I mean, this is your area of expertise. This is an area that you're really interested in. Some of these big emerging technologies are coming through, like quantum, and certainly AI, which we're seeing a lot of with ChatGPT. It seems to have really come through, and I get the feeling with AI, again, which we should probably get to the audience. This is here. It's now. It's happening. AI is a reality.
It is, but it's also the things in the background that are going on, that the checks and balances that go with it. So, for example, Microsoft sacked all their ethics team. Google,
Sacked the ethics team from the AI department. It's a kind of concern. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Google is putting pressure on theirs because they're slowing down their innovation. They were ahead, and they now feel that the people that are ethically, considering what they're doing are slowing them down. Trust, I think the gentleman mentioned trust earlier. We've got obviously the alerting system coming out that's basically coming out. Again, the domination was around trust. What's it going to be doing, etc., etc. And the other checks and balances that go with AI as well are what's it going to be used for. And I suppose everyone's got in the back of their mind Terminator 2, war games, things like that. If things aren't controlled, what could happen? Yeah. I mean, we've also seen as well with the chatbot it was admittedly just limited data, but it was shown that whether you like Trump or not, it did show political bias. And if AI can shift political bias, we may create more diverse society and more division, which is not great.
Let me just ask the room then, with regards to AI, we'll move a little bit away from the budget because I think maybe you've had enough of politics for one day, but let's move on to AI. Let's just ask a quick question. Again, how many people here are genuinely worried by AI? Does anyone here, I'll pass the microphone over. Anyone want to explain why they're worried and what's kind of keeping them awake at night? But gentlemen, that'd be absolutely great.
Yeah, I think everybody's talking about the robots are going to take over and humanity had it, robots are going to kill us, but actually I think it's a conscious diversion from the real issue, which is about control and power, because these AIs are basically trained on certain values. And if we're going to end up in a situation where there's some one or two foundation AIs, which are all these chatbots are based on, they're based on values which are basically American or Chinese values. So it's I think this whole talk about the threat from robots is a really political issue. The governments and big tech are very much joined up in AI arms race.
So it's what kind of AI we're developing and sort of what kind of values it's based on.
Do you want a US AI or do you want a Chinese AI?
Yeah.
Or is there another way forward? I mean, there are some people who are saying, no, there's a big community of open source based AI. We're trying to resist this, and actually, there's a big. Some of the leaders of that are actually based in the UK, but obviously they don't have the resources of the US and Chinese.
Yeah, well, certainly concerns about Microsoft ditching its ethics team is another. I'll take another comment if there's someone who wants to say what their thoughts are on AI. I'll be interested in hearing Your views there. And so could you just introduce yourself? I should have asked the gentleman previously. If you could tell us who you are and
Sure.
what your background is, and then just give us a few thoughts. That'd be great.
My name's Ed, work for a company called A Squared, the Impact Accelerator, to helping people and planet-focused startups get traction.
Fantastic.
And yeah, to answer your question about AI, cautiously optimistic about it. I don't think there's really much way of stopping it. I think there's lots of potentially good applications. But one thing I am worried about is the lack of focus on environmental threats and the lack of addressing those. But I'm going to bring that back around again. AI could really help accelerate connecting, and helping connect the dots. So yeah, I think it sort of could help us to get further down the road with a more pressing threat, if that makes sense.
Is it something that you're using in your business in any way at the moment, or is any?
Not yet, no. I haven't obviously had a good fiddle with GPT, ChatGPT, but no, we're keeping an eye on it, definitely.
Quick, again, I've got to go for a quick question, another poll, if you forgive me. How many people have used ChatGPT? It's just everybody's used it. Okay, wow. That's quite interesting. So everyone's had a go at it. Yeah. Okay. I'm personally had a little bit of a play with it. Although for me, the one exciting thing about AI is actually how much it improves voice-to-text technology. I produce a lot of content, and I can just speak aloud and watch my words appear on a page really quickly. Use it for all my emails and for quite a lot of content generation. So in many ways, I love that. Poppy, I mean, we've sort of segued a little bit into AI. Is this an area that in any way you're investing in, or is it affecting the companies that you're investing in?
I'd say not yet, really. We have generally invested in kind of back office software companies when it's on the tech side. So nothing in the AI space yet. I'd say it's generally been quite specialist investors because it's a scary space to invest in if you don't know all about it.
Absolutely. Okay, brilliant. We'll roll back to the budget, and again, I'm going to open up this one to the audience. What about business performance? We've had a budget, corporation tax going up. There's a number of other different measures which we can talk about regards to R&D and full enterprise, full expensing. Probably not much to say about enterprise zones, which are mostly in the Midlands and the North, although that's another point in itself. But what about this budget? I'll be interested in finding out again from the audience, but also from the people here. Do you feel is it going to impact on your business performance? Will it be positive, negative, or sort of neutral? I'll start off with Poppy, please, on this one.
So if we consider our business performance as our portfolio companies,
sure.
So one is a financial planning company like Ginny works for. I think they'll be positively impacted with the pension rate coming up. Actually, people are going to have more money to invest. So they're really positively invested. I think the others are more closely linked to how other companies do. So an accounting services business and one that provides software to care homes would be two that come to mind. Kind of if there are more businesses that fail, that will impact both of them. And I think with kind of potentially the challenges for small businesses, I think that might be a problem, along with kind of just their customers suffering more, paying bills late and all of that.
Fantastic.
My sector's actually done quite well out of it because everything that we do revolves around personal data and processing of information, which is at the heart of just about everything. Sociological problems, businesses that can't operate without it. And as a result of that, and some of the other issues that are external to the budget, such as organisations trying to get cyber insurance and things like that. But basically, the problem, I can see you thinking, how is the link? How is the link? So
is now easier for them to get insurance?
No, it's basically tightening up. Cyber insurance sector are losing money hand over fist. Lloyd's of London have removed state-sponsored attacks from policies, and the signs are there. To obtain insurance is difficult, and the impact or the potential threat to a business is when due diligence is in subject. They're subjected to it, and insurance is a requirement of that. And
so we've sort of found ourselves, started with the budget and rolled into yet another terrifying subject, which is sort of state-sponsored cyber attacks, ransomware attacks, and all that joy. I almost feel I want to ask, does anyone here have suffered a cyber attack? Would anyone want to admit to it if they have? There's a fellow at the front that has, and there's a couple of people at the back that have. You can nod at me now quickly if you're happy to talk about it. But if you don't have to. No, it's fine. There's a chap over there is waving at me. You've suffered a cyber attack? You wish to talk about it? Part of another business is suffered a cyber attack. Okay. I mean, this must be a major concern, though, presumably. You're happy to talk? Oh, by all means, of course. Yeah, okay.
Really didn't think I'd talk tonight. Yeah, I've run I don't now.
So could you just introduce yourself, if that's okay?
Just
the first name and a little bit about
Katie. I work for a company called Avalara.
Mm-hmm.
We're a tax tech company here in Brighton.
Okay, great.
But specific to the cyber attack, that's to do with a company that I run myself. And I run an exchange. Again, I'm not a tech person, so I'm going to look a bit an exchange account, running my email, running my website, etc., for probably 15 years. On the 19th of December, Rackspace told me that was that, shut down.
Okay.
There's been no information, no communication. Apparently, there were 27 companies that were affected by this, but as someone that I work for a tech company, but I know nothing about tech. This was quite scary, and that's my experience.
So you were sort of frozen out of that particular platform?
And still am.
And still am. Wow.
And they just told me I needed to migrate to Microsoft 365, and that was that, which I haven't done.
Okay. I mean, it's cyber. I mean, I'm presuming there's a lot of companies here in tech. How many people would ever say they've really worried about a cyber attack of some kind, of ransomware or anything like that? Is this something which really concerns a lot of people? Again, if it's just a show of hands, there's lots of people have pointed up. I must admit, it scares the life out of me, and I'm, every Wednesday run the full Avast update everything, and so on. Do you feel that the government understands enough about cybersecurity? Are you hearing it? Because it seems to be a huge area, and we've seen local councils. I think Hackney Borough Council, just a couple of years ago, their entire systems were frozen. There's been attacks on the NHS. Presumably as well, multiple other companies have been attacked, and then they've said literally nothing. Again, is anyone here hearing about the idea, how much damage or any concerns that you're hearing about? Is there any stories that anyone here can share with regards to some of the stuff that's going on with regards to cybersecurity? Got Mo over there waving at me or no, and happy to send a microphone up there.
Hello. That was a bit loud. Hello, my name's Andy. I work at a tech company here in Brighton.
Is that Andy?
Andy, yes.
Thanks, Andy.
I was just thinking about the question you had around who's at risk, really, from cyber attacks. And I think it really comes down to if someone is a target, unfortunately, and if for social, political, or economic reasons, I think that would be when an individual or group would choose to target them because of those reasons, sadly. But yeah, that's the case, I think.
But it can be pretty random, some attacks. Or
Sure.
it could just be a sizable organization, presumably, or just someone who's connected to an organization.
Yes, and I think this is why it's important for companies to have a team and people that have things in place to mitigate kind of denial of service attacks and things on their networks. And that's kind of a standard procedure really in any established tech company. So yeah, apart from that, yeah, and I think, yeah, the people that, and these are kind of general things where there's processes in place to handle that, but the people that would be more worried and be more targeted on a larger scale would be with people for the aforementioned reasons, I think. Yeah.
Nigel, I mean, this is an area that you're passionate about, but we also know there's a massive tech skills gap. And this is one of the curious things I always find about the AI debate and people talking about how AI is going to destroy jobs. And then the next minute I'm reading about how we have 300,000 shortages in the tech area and people are suffering from cyber attacks and so on. Surely there's is there something, are we missing a trick here? There seems to be massive demand. Everyone here is scared about cybersecurity. Why aren't we training people? Why aren't we doing more?
Well, if we look in the budget, we've got the innovation hubs that the Chancellor's putting together, which are focused around universities. And if you look at some of the partnerships that have sprung up, such as Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, Hewlett-Packard, Ben and Jerry, Tom and Jerry. But yeah, a lot of those have come about because there was people that were good thinkers that were thrown together and they came up with solutions and ideas. And so I think that is probably going to be hopefully, it's no guarantee, but it should pave the way for some great innovation a number of years down the line, and enable people. And the other area as well is we talk about jobs and young people and the average wage of a younger person. Sometimes they struggle to attain the higher wages because they need that level of experience and to work their way up. Well, the tech sector is a fantastic opportunity where they can come in and earn some very, very serious money, doing a number of roles in a very short space of time that they can actually, they're probably well suited to.
I've spoken to some companies in Brighton that have been offering apprenticeships and they've been taking on 18-year-olds, and by their early 20s, some of these are earning some pretty good wages. I'll just pass the microphone over to Jeannie. I'm happy for you to pick up any of the points that we've covered on, be it cybersecurity or something else, but over to you, Jeannie.
I have nothing to add on cybersecurity. However,
always admire someone who's very honest.
Just to follow up on the last point that Nigel was making there about employment, and one of the issues we know is a lack of skilled workforce. It's more expensive for young people to go to university now. So I think opportunities for younger people are going to be more important. One of the things that we've done, we've worked on apprenticeship programs. We've also worked with a charity, a superb charity called Resurgo, who are here in Brighton. They run something called the SPEAR program, which aims to get unemployed young people, usually between the age of 18 to 25, into work. It puts them through a 6-week program to give them skills, confidence, help them put a CV together, interview skills. They graduate and off they go. And then Resurgo are brilliant at this because they will work with you as an employer to make sure that person is settled. They don't just sort of help them get a job and then wave them goodbye. They're there to coach and support. So if anyone is looking for staff, I would urge you to get in touch with them.
And that sounds like a great program. Could you just tell us the name of that program again and how people might get involved in that?
It's the charity is called Resurgo, RESURGO, and the program is called the SPEAR program. They work in London. They've recently branched out into, I think, Birmingham and Brighton too.
But this is for young people particularly, so you have young people in your network. These are
it's young people, especially young people from disadvantaged backgrounds.
Sounds a fantastic program. That's great. Okay. I think we're going to round this one up, and I've asked each of our panelists to play Chancellor for at least for a day. And what they're each now going to do is they're going to propose a policy which they hope will be popular with you, the good people of Silicon Brighton. And what we're going to do to add a bit of democracy, shame Vince had to leave us a little earlier, and we're then going to put one of their policies we're going to put all the policies to a vote and see who wins. And we'll then replace Mr. Hunt, well, at least in our minds. So, Poppy, would you like to start us off? I'm going to give you the microphone if you want to take the lectern, by all means. And we'll call that the box, and I'll pass it over to you. And you unveil your policy, economic policy for Silicon Brighton.
Is it right to stay sitting down?
If you're that enthusiastic.
Oh, no, okay, right. Okay, my policy is one that's happened before. It's been taken away now. I spoke about it earlier, to increase the business assets disposal relief back to 10 million. So I think the reason for this is if someone sets up a business, they're taking a huge risk. You're putting your personal savings in, and you're hoping to build a big business that's going to be worth something and employ lots of people, and really stimulate the economy. And you need to be rewarded appropriately for that. If you put in your life savings and then you get taxed for employing people, tax national insurance, and then taxed quite highly on the way out, we're going to get less people doing that. So actually rewarding people for doing it and making successful businesses, hopefully it means more people will take that risk.
So rewarding the entrepreneurs for taking more risk. You did well, Nigel.
Okay, so I'm going to frame mine first because it needs a little bit of explaining. So if you are a business and you have someone that's dual nationality Spanish, who's in America, who's visiting an American website, and you're a subsidiary of that American website, which international law on data do you have to satisfy? And what does your cookie banner have to basically conform to? So my policy would be to invest in something called machine readable icons, which is part of GDPR. I apologize for quoting it. But that would basically mean the end of cookie banners. And if basically my policy would be to invest in machine readable icon technology, which is out there, browser based. I bet it's something that you're very much aware of. It's great for consumers, amazing for businesses, and I would effectively remove the cookie banner, the need for the cookie banner. Absolutely. So consumers would never have to agree to stuff, and businesses would never have to deal with regulations they don't understand.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got to removing the cookie banners. How do I best frame yours into simple words? It's reducing the risk to entrepreneurs.
Increasing business assets, really to reward entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so increasing business. Oh, I'm never going to get that right, am I? Rewarding entrepreneurs and removing the risk. Okay.
I don't know if I can beat removing the cookie banner. Okay, so we've heard a lot today about the pressure on public finances. We've heard about corporation tax, we've heard about personal taxation, and we've seen there's pressure on both. I think that there is in this country a source of untaxed and largely unearned wealth that we should be seriously considering taxation on. So if I was Chancellor for the day, I would reform stamp duty. So instead of paying when you buy a house, you pay on the profit you make when you sell your house.
Okay. So we started off with some wonderful populism from Poppy, where she's going to be rewarding entrepreneurs by reducing the reliefs. And have I got that right? We've got the cookie killer. And then finally, it's going to be some stamp duty reform, and you'll be paying it when you sell your house, not when you buy it. So you can only vote once, but whoever wins, you only get one. So votes for Poppy's rewarding the entrepreneurs. It's a big show. We're going to do a rough count over there, Grace?
Quite a lot.
Quite a lot. Fantastic. And what about cookies? Cookies are popular.
But we've called him the cookie cutter.
Jeannie's going for cookies now, and finally stamp duty reform. A respectable showing.
I knew it wasn't going to be a popular one.
I think it was very close between Nigel and Poppy, but I think I've just about Poppy edged it.
I would say so.
All right, thank you very much, folks. I think we're going to wrap it up there so you can all get back to some thinking and networking. But just before we go, can we have a final round of applause for our 3 chancellors in waiting?